Day 3, my thoughts for the day. I'm a nurse manager, and there are so many personalities in healthcare that are so hard to deal with. There's so many egos, there's so many moral compasses that have much more passion than logic to back them. And then you mix a little bit of ego in with that, and oh my goodness, guys, it's a hard thing. What I'm reminded of is that mental health it's really I'm choosing my mindset today. It makes me think of a story, right? There's a little short of two guys, and they're standing on the sidewalk. There's a puddle in the kind of the side of the road there, and this car goes out of its way to hit this puddle and soak these two gentlemen. And the one guy it starts freaking out, right? I mean, that guy went out of his way to splash me with that puddle. What a jerk. Screw him. And for most of us, it would seem, I mean, it's definitely justified. Like, if I'm walking and you just like take a bucket of water and pour it on me, we're probably gonna have an issue. However, the other guy was unfazed. And that's what I'm practicing being today for this reason, this story. Because the other guy was unfazed, the guy who was offended was he was upset that the other guy wasn't upset, right? Which is another funny human nature thing. But he looks at him and he's like, "How aren't you upset?" And the man hands him $1,144, right? And then the guy's like, "Wow, thank you." He takes $1 from him. And he's like, "Are you still upset? Are you upset that I took this dollar?" And the guy goes, "No, I saw $1,139. And he says, "So why, if there are 1,140 minutes in a day, why would you allow somebody taking 1 minute to ruin the rest?" So, life is unfair, and that's kind of an oversimplification of something that is also, it's a truth. At least I was raised, I'd ask all these questions and want all the things to be right in the world, and the answer a lot of the time is, well, it's unfair. I have doctors with egos. I'm not going to fix their ego, so therefore I'm not going to fix them insulting me by belittling me. I have, all these moral compasses that are very extreme in the nature of their cares, and they blame people around them for not being exactly the same as them. Am I going to fix it? No. So I kind of have two options, right? Where specifically this morning, oh gosh, I had a 3-hour meeting about lawsuit this and just you're bad that, and it's almost never ending, especially in healthcare. It's a very high stress work environment. And I'm not gonna lie, at times it really does get me down, guys. Oh my goodness. I just come home, I'm completely drained, and I have nothing left because all I deal with is negativity and people with bad attitudes or right, like, holier than thou attitudes, or just a lot of really strong personalities. Of course, there's really great people in healthcare too. But when it comes to regulations and laws, and when legal starts getting involved with nurses, it's just drama every time. It's never fun for a nurse to have to sit there and be like, I have 87,000 regulations to follow and I failed on one, so now I'm being absolutely torn apart, even though I followed all the 86,999 other ones, even though it's impossible. But that's kind of the idea. So today I'm very much so being aware of, and it's kind of a balance thing, right? Because I have to not care. I have to not care that people act in insulting ways, because if I did, I'd have 1,000 reasons to hate every single day of my life. Instead, I kind of, there's a few things where I could be sympathetic for them, or that takes energy too. So I simply I just let it roll off my shoulders, right? Like I tell everybody at work, be a duck. Just let the water roll off. The water's not gonna stop being there. That's why we have the ducks. The ducks have the grease on their feathers. So we need to learn to grease our feathers so that these personalities, these offensive things, right? They just roll off our back. There's a church talk called "To Be Offended," and it's something that I've thought about a lot, because to be offended is not black and white. There are definitely times where being offended is very correct. What the misnomer that I don't like is that, and it points out, to be offended is not like a condition. And it's not something that falls out of the sky and hits you in the head and then all of a sudden you're offended. It's a willing choice. I believe that the word is hypolepsis in Stoicism, where I determine the value of the things around me, not the other people. That takes all my power away. When somebody is acting in an insulting way towards me, if I let them make me angry, that's a lot different than me choosing to be angry, right? There's a couple of inferred things there. One is that I'm impulsive and I don't have the maturity or I'll just use maturity to be able to evaluate the situation for myself and then act in a way that's not impulsive. So that's kind of the one thing. And then there's the mature part where like, I can choose to be angry, and don't get me wrong, I do, especially when safety, like the safety of my residents or the safety of my coworkers is at risk. There are definitely zero tolerance things, but for like personalities and just tones, and it's frustrating, I get it, but like how long can we be frustrated by the people around us? How long? And I'll tell you what, in my world, I can't. Like I work roughly 8-10 hours a day with a billion things going on and a million personalities. Everything is an emergency in my job all the time. Everybody needs this information right now, right here, this patient care done, this, and I get it. We do health and it's important. But if I let the chaos of all these personalities get to me, if I let them have that power over me, which at times I do, my life sucks, right? And it makes sense. If I let everybody get to me, well, they got to me. And getting to me means that I'm frustrated, that I'm sick of everything, and well, they got me. So I am taking the power today on my third day. And I am intentionally just re-greasing my feathers. And I'm letting those things roll off. This doesn't mean I'm not doing my job. In fact, it's the opposite. I'm doing my job very objectively and very emotionless because it helps things go smoother. When people yell at me, I started as a janitor and then a CNA and central supply, LPN, RN, nurse. I've had plenty of different titles yell at me. I've had plenty of different corporate people be belittling and be horrible leaders. And the one thing that never helps is yelling back or acting back in the same way, right? Which means they got to me. The thing that actually helps, and it's amazing because it's internal and it's external, is when they visibly see that they can't actually get to me. And then it's like they're looking at a mirror, right? Because they're used to the reaction, which then spurs more reactions, and we become impulsive and lost in the moment. If I don't react, there's a second, the pause where they have to be like, I'm not getting a reaction, but this is, and they have to note that they wanted that reaction, right? But regardless, none of that matters. For me, I don't really care if they know they got a reaction or if they keep acting the way they do. I can call it out very emotionless and just be like, hey, why are you acting like this? Like what's, and I mean it. And so what I mean when I say that is I will sincerely and objectively try to get to the bottom of the issue because it's easier for me. It is easier for me just to not have to invest myself emotionally into every phone call every 5 minutes that I have over with this doctor, with this supervisor, or whatever. And instead just handle the issue. And I don't need to be heated, and sometimes more justified than others. But today, there's a lot of BS and people who are upset over things that they don't even understand, and they're just looking for somebody to blame. Well, they can blame me, that's fine, but I'm not going to fall into it. I'm not going to fall into their need for somebody to be on the receiving end of their righteousness or their ego or whatever. I don't care. Even if it works for them, that's fine. I'm past the point of even noticing because it doesn't benefit me. It doesn't help the situation. Even if I own up to everything and if it was all my fault and all of that, I will do it emotionless and just objectively, right? Because the emotions don't help. The being offended doesn't help. The ego doesn't help. And they drain me. I have ego. I'm a human being. I have struggles. When you have to deal with it so much, that it keeps putting you to your end, at some point you just make a choice where it's not that I don't care. Don't get me wrong. I care about what people think. In fact, too much so for most of my life. It's that I'm not going to make a willing decision to put energy into emotions and chaos and those things when I can simply articulate the problem and handle the problem, and then everything goes away, right? So it's like I'm skipping a step. I'm cheating. I'm skipping a step. I'm skipping the freak out and everybody, be super emotional and fight and argue. And I'm cutting to the part where we actually fix the issue and we lay things out objectively. I'm surprised to see myself down 14 pounds in roughly 2 weeks. I don't do strict keto anymore, but we'll see. My goal is 220. I don't want to lose it too fast. Then you lose muscle and everything else. But 236, 16 pounds. What did I say yesterday? 20? Water. Your weight will fluctuate by 5 pounds on any given day just because water and salt. But that's my thought for the day. We're going to go to that barbecue tonight. That's going to be basically my mental health thing. I'm going to go to a social event. I'm excited to go to this one. Sometimes I have to force myself to social events, and I hope that I get that on video in the next 100 days. I certainly probably will. Just last week, I had to kind of drag myself to a rodeo, or a derby, which is a weird thing because I love derbies, and with all my good friends, and I had to drag myself, and it made me feel better, even though I didn't want to go. So, and that's kind of what this program is just acknowledging of our self-defeating behaviors and kind of how to get through the troughs, the peaks and the troughs. And I'm probably saying that wrong. Okay, have a good day, guys.